Welcome back, and this for the home run. We'll take this all the way till the top of the hour where we have discussions. We've looked at the social security problems with the cattle and the foodstuff blockade, which has been on for the 6 days now. Now we're going to look at the economic aspect. For the last 4 years, inflation has been going north, and that's because of food inflation. They say when it rains, it pours, and that's exactly what has happened with what has happened with the blockade. You've had the people go to the market. Our correspondent was out earlier on at Okiodo Market, and lamentations everywhere about how the prices of foodstuff has gone up, and we're looking at the impact and what the picture looks like, which looks gloomy right now. Taiwo Joda, great to have him join us. He's the chairman, National Association of Microfinance Banks, the Lagos chapter.
Good morning.
Excellent.
Nice to be here.
Excellent. We'll come to you shortly. We'll come and find out whether that cow leg is no longer in the pot anymore. Godwin Egbegbe is the chairperson, Poultry Association of Nigeria, joins us virtually, and will also be looking at this with us. Thank you very much, Godwin Egbegbe, for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having me. Thank you, viewers. Good morning.
Excellent. All right, we'll be with you shortly. And so, David, with Taiwo Joda.
Yes, Taiwo, sad narrative, sad position we find our economy, an economy that is said to have just exited recession, even though that is questioned by some experts, our exit from recession. Yes, figures are pretty marginal, 0.11%.
Yeah.
And then we have seen inflation rise above 16% in recent times.
That's right.
And food inflation is the core component that brought about the rise in inflation. And here we are toying with the little food that we seem to have. We've seen the price of foods skyrocket in recent times: yam, plantain, beans, rice, and the rest of them. And here we are toying with what we have to live with. How much sense can you make, before we begin to look at the economic importance or impact, how much sense can you make from this whole conversation? Some part of the countries are calling for a boycott to cow, starting from Friday, so they say. And then some part of the country are saying we are not bringing our food to the south. How much sense can you make from this style?
Thank you very much. Like rightly said, this is a very difficult situation that Nigeria has found itself. I think it's avoidable, but now we're here and we need to try to see how we'll navigate ourselves out of this very bad situation that we have found ourselves. To start with, it simply doesn't make sense, both at the micro and the macro level.
Yeah.
It robs the household of the needed protein. It robs the household of the food they need. There's a fear of repercussion, a fear of reprisal. We've had the members of the Niger Delta saying that they're going to stop fuel supply to the north. They're going to blow up pipelines in retaliation to what has happened. But I'm more concerned about the people at the bottom of the pyramid. I'm more concerned about the 70% of Nigerians that are currently challenged. I'm more concerned about the tomato seller in the market. I'm more concerned about the farmer in the north that cannot sell its stocks now. Over 10 billion has been lost in the last 1 week by food sellers in the north. Prices of food in Lagos and everywhere else has shot up astronomically. The average household is finding it difficult. What happens to that restaurant business? What happens to the woman who hawks food on the side of the road? And I think these are the imperatives, these are the questions we should be asking ourselves and how it impacts the macroeconomy, because these are actually the catalyst for economic growth. And what has happened to the food? We're very poor with storage. So if the food is not consumed, it's going to be destroyed. The tomatoes are perishing. The peppers are perishing out there. So you're not consuming them, you're not making money, and that means the loss. It's not like you're keeping it for the prices to go up. The loss is going to be huge. If you say you've lost 10 billion, you probably will never recoup that 10 billion again. Because, and what have they done with foods that are not coming to the Southwest? They've moved them to Niger, they've moved them to Cameroon, they have their foods. So how there's glut. So you have supply exceeding demand out there. The prices come down.
Yeah.
Right.
So if you look at the macroeconomic level, you begin to get concerned that for a country that has just stepped out of recession, though in some quarters they said it's agreeable, but let's go with statistics.
yeah.
Let's go with statistics. So if you have stepped out of recession and you're looking at the food basket, that is a significant component of inflation measurement. And we're getting to this stage less than a month after you have exited recession. It's a real cause for concern, I must say.
Real cause for concern. Let's cross over to Godwin Gregory, Poultry Association of Nigeria, and tell us whether this contagion from cattle to other foodstuff is affecting the poultry industry.
Well, thank you. Whether it's affecting the poultry industry is, I think, is an understatement, because as we speak, we are supposed to receive some grains from the north, which is being anchored by the CBN. As we speak right now, we are not able to access those grains because of this crisis that we have at hand. So in the next maybe few days or weeks to come, the poultry industry will be experiencing more greater shock than we have been experiencing before now. So prices of chicken, just right now, one of my members just called me that what we're selling for, that's a meat, poultry product that we're selling for 1,100 is now 1,500 as we speak right now. Per kg of broilers is 1,500 because of the high cost of feed. Because when there is no grain, the prices of feed increases by the day, because we don't have grains to produce this feed. The little ones that we can find, the prices goes up, because that's what happens in Nigeria. Once there's any little scarcity like this, the little ones that are available will be hiked up. So that's where we are. It's affecting the poultry industry very hard as we speak.
One could think that this could be good business for poultry farmers. One could think that there will be an increase in demand for that commodity, and so you should be smiling to the banks right now.
In as much as we are smiling to the bank, what about the grains to produce more? We have limited grains. So if the grains, the little ones that we have in stock finishes, what happens? So it will be difficult for us to proceed, because these are live animals. They eat every day. So that's the precarious situation we find ourselves.
We'll take a pause from you so we can, when we come back, we can have an idea of how the chain works. But Taiwo Jordan, when you think about the I know the economists and the financial people don't like to mix the politics, because they think it's just too complex to understand how the chain works. But I've also had people in your circle also talk about how complex it is to understand the agricultural chain, which is one of the problems. They say it's difficult for people in the agri sector to access credit, because they see it as a very difficult, thing to break down. More reason with what has happened now. I mean, people, I'm sure, would not understand how an association can wake up and make this sort of decision and lead to the loss of billions of naira and it's still counting. What would you say in terms of having the right policy decisions to affect the agri sector happen as quickly as possible? Do you see an opportunity or a window here? Or you think when we have the next MPCB, more of the same in how we address issues urgently when they happen?
Thank you. Honestly, I think Nigeria is not scarce of policies, economic policies, financial policies. But it's always been an issue of implementation. There's always been that institutional void between policy formulation and the enactment of the policy and delivering on the critical issues of the policies. So, for example, Godwin spoke about grain supply. That's probably, this kind of risk you're saying today is probably a risk you will not envisage if you're a financier, even if the CBN makes money available for grains. So the discussion this morning is not that grains are not available, is that grains are not being supplied. And that's a whole different argument on its own. So what policy do you formulate against availability but non-supply? The supply is not due to logistic issues. The supply is not due to low production or farming. The supply is due to human intervention that felt aggrieved about political happenings and are demanding for what they seem is their right. And like you rightly said, I'm not going to go into politics of what is right, of what is wrong. But we're going to look at the economic umbrella and say, what has this done to the Nigerian economy? Where has this left the Nigerian economy? Could things have been done better? So I'm not going to discuss the economic or politics of strike, but I'm going to discuss the economic loss that this has brought to us. In Lagos, daily 6,000 cows are killed, served to families. Now those cows cannot come in. They continue to eat, they'll continue to be treated wherever they are. So more spendings are going into it. If you extrapolate what 6,000 cows are in a month, that's about 180,000 that is consumed. Even the poultry farmers cannot meet that gap.
Demand, yeah.
The fish farmers cannot meet that demand. And so it's worrying. It's worrying that we are at this moment in a stage where there's also this very uncomfortable silence from decision makers about what is happening. The demands, are they realistic or not? Pay us 24 billion, do this, do that. I mean, on the face of it, they might be realistic. You don't know how much they've lost. So if they say pay us this amount, you may want to, but then it's going to have a ripple effect. Because in the Shasha market issue, it's both the North and the South who are traders there, whose items were destroyed. So,
sorry, but in a proper setting, you probably will have your investment insured, which is the basis for paying compensation, I would assume. But this sort of business is uninsured. So I can imagine the hell it will be, for example, to say I'm going to even compensate based on losses.
Well, yes, most of them are not insured, but you remember that the NICOM also started licensing insurance companies to do microinsurance. And this should be the focus of microinsurance. But then the question is, are these insurance cover or perils included? So, for example, this is as a result of strike, okay? And I know that it is always called the act of God under insurance covers. So it may not be covered. I work in the microinsurance industry, and then for some issues like flood and riot, you have to pay an extra premium. So is this extra premium affordable by that market woman or by that trader in the market? These are discussions that should come to the table. But insurance will have been a fantastic idea, really, to take us out of this quagmire.
Taiwo, you play in the microfinance space, and then when we look at the chain of impact.
Sorry, David, we've got a break. We're going to go on a quick ad break. When we come back, continue with discussion with Taiwo Jordan and Gordon Egbegbe. Please stay with us.
The fight against COVID-19 is far from over. We are presently in the community transmission phase. Unfortunately, this is the most deadly part of its spread, and it's more prevalent in high-density areas. Don't become a statistic. Wash your hands frequently with soap and running water, or use a hand sanitizer, and remember to practice physical distancing at all times and avoid crowded places. But if you have no choice, you have the choice of wearing a face mask. Remember, it's not over till it's really over. This is a message from the Silverbird Group.
You can now stream Silverbird News 24 live on mobile app. All you need to do is to download Silverbird News 24 app from Google Play Store on your Android devices and App Store or on your Apple devices. Tap the live button at the bottom bar to watch us live 24/7. You can enjoy all our news programs, including Pidgin News and program. Silverbird News 24. The news never stops.
Yes, welcome back. Just in case you just joined us, you're watching NewsHub. Our conversation is around the economic impact of the current ongoings around foodstuff, cattle, beef, and the reprisals, just name it. We still have Taiwo Jordan in the studios here. Taiwo Jordan is a key player in the microfinance space. And we also have a Gordon Egbegbe on the other side, who is a poultry farmer. Yes, before we went to the break, I was going to ask you this. Looking at the chain, the chain effect. You work in the microfinance space, and we understand that most of the players in this, most of those that are affected by this development are either they've borrowed money from 5 microfinance banks and they have to repay these monies. Let's look at how this would impact the microfinance space.
Thank you very much. I'll take it from the microfinance space and then move it to the economy. Okay, so let me roll back to the COVID-19 issue that we had. And a lot of microfinance businesses and SMEs went out of business because they were not able to sustain the business. They lost their capital. The microfinance sustained a lot of losses in terms of non-performing loans. Then you see some glimmer of hope. The economy started bouncing back. The economy opened up. Locked marketplaces were opened. And these guys rushed back, trying to look for more funds from the same microfinance bank to do their business. And the critical mass are, number one, women. Because if you look at who are the pepper sellers, if you look at who are the hawkers in the market, they're mostly women. Most of the obligors of loans for microfinance bank, between 60 to 65% of them are mostly women. Either they're married trying to help their husband, or they're single parents, or they're widows. And these are the people mostly affected now. So you're not just looking at loss of business, you're looking at their inability to be able to repay their loans to the bank. And on the macro level, you may be seeing an inability of microfinance institutions' ability to repay their loan to their creditors. Some creditors are international creditors. And it speaks volume about the country if you're not able to meet your international debt obligations. Okay, so when you put this down, and like I said, my greater concern is that of the household. How does this woman pay school fees? How does this woman feed her family? How does this woman start again in business? And I pray we don't see what we saw in 2010 in India, where people begin to commit suicide because hope becomes very bleak and they've lost everything they had in business. I think it's really urgent. Like I said, the central bank, the Ministry of Finance, the presidency needs to step into this. They need to see how we can salvage the nation. This is threatening our economic prosperity as a country.
Yeah, threatening our economic prosperity as a nation. We still have Godwin Egbegbe. Godwin Egbegbe is the president of Poultry Association of Nigeria. And I understand we also have Yinka Odumakin. Yinka Odumakin is the National Public Secretary of Afenifere. We understand he was supposed to join in early on, but had some difficulty connecting. But Mr. Odumakin, I will just take you very quickly here, if you can hear us.
Yes, I'm hearing you.
All right, brilliant. And, I'm sure you've been following the discussions, and the impact of what has been happening has shifted from social security to economy, which we're looking at now. And we understand that you have signed, you're part of a boycott of beef, which has come in, which we expect to come into effect on Friday. But help us understand, when you look at the ramifications of what is going on, that these sort of decisions actually cost more hurt than good in the long run.
Well, clearly, what we call ABCD is a campaign for the boycott of beef. Those who bring the beef to us, themselves, they don't eat beef. They eat lean meats. And it's one of the health implications. And if you are giving us something that's not good for our health, and you are still killing our people, raping our women over it, it has got to a point where we have to take some positive actions to show that you are not doing us any good. It's not as if you are dashing us the beef. You cannot use it to embarrass us or to take any holistic actions against our people. And that's why that campaign is going to be going on. It's not going to be a Yoruba affair alone. It's going to be an entire Southern Middle Belt and the North community decisions in Nigeria. To say no, it's enough of this. You can't have it anymore. You cannot be killing our people because we are buying cows from you. No, it's enough.
Okay, Mr. Odumakin, we understand your position, but our concern here, like we are discussing right now on this segment of the show, we're looking at the economic impact this would have. Here you are calling for a boycott of beef, and then do we really understand the chain of impact that this would have? There are butchers in the southwest here that is where they earn their living from. There are people in the market, we call them elero, that's where they earn their living from, and you're taking away their means of livelihood from them. Do we understand that this could cascade into a more terrible situation than we've envisaged?
Oh, well, if the people who started the blockade to the south, if they are not blockheads, they should have thought about all these things before you engage in it. There may be other campaigns that will also come from the south. If people decide, for instance, petroleum products all go here from the south to the north, that nothing to go there again. Maybe they have to use the urine of their cows to power their energy needs. When you are throwing things, you should be careful what your opponents can also throw at you. And but these people are not thinking through all these things before taking decisions. Reasoning is important in this kind of situation.
Mr. Odumakin, we do appeal that you respect, whatever decisions people have taken. I'm not too sure blockhead exactly describes whatever decisions, whether we don't agree with that or not. But help us understand, very importantly also too, because there are several actors in this whole situation. There are people who are farmers in the north. There are people who don't agree with the amalgamated, this union, who are completely against the blockade, and they are farmers there. They're suffering huge losses. And on this side of the divide, you're having, your group say that you want to go eyeball for eyeball. What is the pathway towards peace in ensuring that we have a win-win situation? Because as it is right now, it's a loser-loser situation we're facing.
Well, if you want to have win-win, you cannot say that you want to harass a section of the country. Look, it's what they are doing. It's what somebody called. So there are some of our countrymen who are saying that, oh, what is ours, but yours is negotiable. The same people who are saying they are doing these boycotts against us, next week now, their ministers and these of them, commissioners, they will go to federal pension account to go and share money. Did you put the money there? What's your contribution to that pension account that you're sharing every month? We know all these things. What is the percentage of what they are sharing on this account? What are they putting there? What are they contributing? When people begin to ask those critical questions, this country will not be at peace. And they will force people to ask those questions the way they are doing.
Oh, okay. Mika Dumaki, thank you so very much for your time with us on this segment. We will stay on this conversation. Maybe if we were able to get, if we had the spokesperson for the amalgamated food and cattle dealers here, we probably would have had a lovely face-off with you on this conversation. But then, thank you so very much, Mr. Dumaki, for your time with us on the show. Thank you. All right, let's come back home. We still have Godwin Egwebe on the other side. We'll come to you quickly, Godwin, but let's listen to Taiwo. Taiwo has something to say. You haven't listened to Dumakin's position, and it's obvious that people are not looking at things. Due diligence is not being looked at. It's one-sided position here. We are discussing the economic impact this could have, general economic impact. But here we have a group of people that think that this decision is the right thing to do at this point in time. How does this make you feel?
Well, first, let me say that I understand the sentiments being expressed by Mr. Dumaki. But I'm looking at the Nigerian entity as a whole. So the northern economy today may lapse into comatose for this because food production is their mainstay. All right. So I've not verified it, but like we've read, 10 billion is lost, and that's coming from them on food production. So if you extend this to another week or two, it's 20 billion is lost. And that is because of a decision they took on their own. So I'm not yet to see the economic logic in the decision, and that's why rash decisions should not be taken. Decisions should be considered holistically. Yeah. If you take out the butchers, you take out the meat sellers from the value chain by boycotting beef. Anyway, beef is not being supplied anyway. And now you boycott them. What's going to happen to the economy of Lagos? What's going to happen to the economy of the Southwest? Because you're going to push these people out of business. What palliative are you going to create for them? Instantly. And so when you look at that, I think everybody needs to take a step back and consider economic implications of actions. So action taken by the amalgamated, whatever their name is killing the knot. It's not improving the economic lot. So should the South take the same action point that would destroy its own economic value? I don't think so. I think people should come to the table. And what suffers? The Nigerian entity. That's what suffers at the end of it. And so I will tread with a lot of caution on retaliations or any form of reprisal. It doesn't really end well. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. I like the hashtag for several years, which was lean forward. We're going to lean forward to Godwin Egwebe now. Godwin Egwebe, Chairman, Poultry Association of Nigeria. And you have an association, I can imagine, of very concerned members right now. You've talked about the problems with the grains you're facing and the cost of the broilers and everything associated with poultry. What do you tell them? This is day 6. What do you tell them going forward to reassure them? Because I can imagine it's the reason why you have an association in the first instance, to protect their interests.
Well, right now, we, especially the Poultry Association chairman from Southwest, we are having meetings every day, interfacing with CBN, since they are the ones anchoring the grains for us. Though we made the payment, they just discussed with the grains manufacturers in the north. We made payments to them, and they now make payment to the grain producers. So as we speak, we have a lot of our farmers' money in our accounts that we have remitted to CBN. So we try to encourage them, because like Mr. Jordan just said, majority of this money are borrowed funds, and interest is counting. The bank will not want to know whether there is any crisis of blockage of grains or whatever. So it has a multiplying effect on even the health of the farmers. I've been having a lot of calls. What is happening to our money? You know, it's bank money. Interest is counting. You know, when you take a loan for maybe like 1 month, you are planning that within 1 month you have your grains, and you have used it and have proceed, and you pay back your loan. So now that the grains are not coming, what happens? The bank will not be interested on what they are saying. They are interested in making their own returns. So by now, I thought the government would have quickly interceded on this matter. And I'm surprised that this thing is still lingering. And the demands of these amalgamated farmers, we are talking about close to ₦500 billion, when you know that the country is bleeding already. And the loss is not just from one side, like Mr. Jordan has said, it's from both ways. So the Southerners lost both human and materials. Also, the Northerners lost. So we should come to the rallying point and see, going forward, how we can avert such crisis. So we're having a tough time. We hardly sleep because of this situation, because our farmers are calling every day. Even as we speak, today again, we are going to have another meeting with the Southwest chairman to see the way forward. So we are calling on the Southwest governors to come together and see how they can put a stop to this, so that we can have respite. So that's where we are.
All right, Gordon Egbebe, thank you for your time and thoughts with us. We really do wish your association well. We really hope that these quagmire, this controversy is resolved as quickly as possible, so we can all return to work. We really wish you the very best.
Thank you.
Yes, so Taiwo, we need to wrap up this show in the next 1 minute. So tell us, as a key player in the microfinance, are you looking at concessions for people that are probably caught up in this quagmire in terms of loan repayment? Is there a possibility of considering that?
Well, we're a regulated entity,
yes,
by the Central Bank of Nigeria. And even as at the time of the pandemic, the CBN came out with a guideline as to what concessions you can give, because there are some decisions you cannot take unilaterally. So it still has to flow with what the government or what the regulators think should be done. But beyond that, I think what is very important at the moment is to put an end to these. I mean, I was having a backroom chat, and it was in the news that the rice pyramid in Kebbi State has returned. But where will the rice be supplied to? Well, the rice be supplied to. It will be stored there. So we need to fix the value chain. We need to fix the demand chain. We need to fix the supply chain. We need to work for this entity. And that's when, and like I said, how do you give further, even as a microfinance institution, how do you give further concession to a loan that has gone bad? You're also struggling to meet capitalization. You're struggling to do a lot of things. And so a lot of responsibilities lies with our government. And on a final note, let me say this. Those who go to war should consider that the people who suffer are the people who cannot afford it. Those who call for strike can afford at any amount. The leaders of the amalgamated probably have their children schooling abroad. They can buy food at any amount. What happens to the poor farmer? What happens to that hawker, that retailer? And I think that's we need to take an holistic view of. And we have them in majority in Nigeria. We are impoverishing a lot more people every day. A lot more people are going below the poverty line. I think the government should wake up. Thank you very much.
All right. A great way to end the discussion this morning. And we'll keep our fingers on this one and hope it ends very well, sooner rather than later. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure speaking with you, Taiwo Joda. Taiwo Joda, Chairman, Association of Microfinance Banks, Nigeria, Lagos chapter. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes, so that's where the cookie crumble.
Yes,
that's where we
the cookies
say
crumbled.
It's a wrap on the show today. We'll do this again tomorrow, God willing. So many more conversations to bring to the fore on NewsHub. Thank you for staying with us. I am David Babike. Like I always do this. Where is my mask? COVID-19 is still here. Physical distancing, importantly, use your face mask. Thank you.
All right, and I'm Rob. Catch me on social media and all my social media handles. And we're going to be flying away. There's no fly zone here. Oh, there's fly zone here. Hasta mañana.